Good afternoon. Welcome to this class where we attempt to find the address of wisdom and understanding on a number of issues that often come up and are never resolved. I belong to a WhatsApp group where the discussion this morning focused on the following issues that I will post on the screen for us to maybe look at the questions, hopefully find answers to these questions, and we can walk through the questions together so that we can perhaps find a better understanding of what these issues mean and what would be the best answer, if it exists, that we can possibly find. All too often we don't have addresses of wisdom, addresses of understanding, where we can all gravitate towards so that we find solutions or answers to some of these troubling questions. What are these questions that can be troubling without any place where we can find a resolution? So I will post the questions and we can go through the questions one by one. The first question: do you think there is a positive relationship between academic qualifications and problem-solving power? If we look at life as a theater for us to solve problems, and these are human problems, human challenges, human needs, human wants. We know for sure that the design of life does not permit one person to possess all the answers. That mutuality, diversity, inclusivity, interrelatedness, interdependentness are key. Do you think there is a positive relationship between academic qualifications and problem-solving power? That the power inherent in us can only be activated by going to school and securing academic qualifications. What is your take? This is just a conversation in which I will provoke you, possibly ignite you to respond. Because if I respond, then I end up with the answers that I started with. So the question is meant for you. Number one, do you think there is a positive relationship between academic qualifications and problem-solving power? Yes or no? It's up to you to look at the question. It's up to you to think from it and possibly come up with your own answer. What is your take on this question? Do you think that there is a positive relationship between academic qualifications and problem-solving power? This is a question for you. So I'm waiting for your answers, because it is your answers that can also provoke me to respond. I may not respond the way you want me to respond, but nevertheless, I will attempt to give my own take after I hear your own take. I see there is a comment. I'm not sure whether it's a comment to this question or another question. Okay, I'll read what other people have said. Perhaps that can get the ball rolling. Let me just check whether there's any response there. Okay, I see Savannah is online. Do you think, Savannah, there is a positive relationship between academic qualifications and problem-solving power? That's the question. And we need your answers if you are watching. And if you want to be part of this question, because I think we have had the diagnosis of many of the nations in the world, why some are poor, why some are failing. In fact, some would venture to conclude that failure is predicated on lack of leadership. And by leadership, people often mean that you must be schooled, you must be, you must have educational qualifications. And therefore, those who possess qualifications naturally ought to be privileged in terms of finding a solution. I got a comment here. It is from Tenille Jacobs, based in Canada. This is what she had to say. Problem-solving power, but not capability. People without academic qualifications have to work harder to prove that they are capable of solving problems, even if they are, whereas those with qualifications have the power to be heard and hence the power to get things done. Academic qualifications are by no means an indication of being the best person to solve a problem. Sometimes the capable are just not fortunate enough to afford to further their academics. This is one of the reasons that it is crucial for education to be free to all. There is a lot of talent suppressed by economic hardship. Then I responded, do you expect a president to be a human problem solver or a trustee? Tenille Jacobs responds, trustee. They should have a fiduciary duty to the trust, also known as the country people they serve. They should always be working in the best interest of the people, not engage in risky ventures. Delegate responsibility for problem solving to appropriate problem solvers without bias or for personal gain. We, the people, are trusting the person appointed as president to work in our best interest. Etwa Mutero says, there is none, which is there is no relationship between academic qualifications and problem solving. Rewilo Masulani, welcome. The MP who has made the most meaningful debate in our parliament is the least educated person, Mutumwa. Incidentally, his constituency has made the most progress as well ever since he became an MP. In Zimbabwe, after hearing Mugabe's audacity to challenge Mnangagwa to form his own party, you would think that all those educated would stand up. Trevor Carter says, great. Okay, now let's have a conversation with Rewilo Masulani. You state as fact that the MP who has made the most meaningful debate is debate problem solving. I can have a verbal diarrhea. Is that a negative, or should that be construed to be a negative against me? I can say a lot in parliament. Does it mean that I am serving the people? Should MPs be judged by their utterances in parliament? Should that be the litmus test for the best MP? And you say progress has been made the most. Is it because Mutumwa has got a big voice in government where he can intimidate the members of the executive to direct limited resources to his constituents compared to other MPs who may not have the same flair? Where would the progress come from? Where do MPs get the resources to be able to impact in the communities they serve? What should be the role of an MP? Is it to mastermind, misdirect, redirect, divert resources to the areas they come from so that they are re-elected? Is it the proper use of public resources that must then be shared fairly and perhaps equitably to all the other provinces, other constituencies, notwithstanding the political vocabulary or volatility of the MP concerned? Then we go to, in Zimbabwe, after Mugabe's audacity, it's called audacity, but it is the fact may be that it is not Mugabe who has been touted as his successor. It is not Mugabe who is saying, I am the successor. People are saying Mnangagwa is a worthy successor. Yet Mugabe regards Mnangagwa as a passenger in the car he is driving and has been driving while Mnangagwa has been watching. Sometimes not in the front seat, sometimes in the back seat. How dare people say Mnangagwa is up to the job of the master being Mugabe? This is what Mugabe would say. This is what his wife would say. Why is Mnangagwa silent when people are saying Mugabe's time is up? Some people are saying this in the party, but at no stage has Mnangagwa come forward to say, my chief, it's time that we change course. It's time that we review where we are going, where we have been going for the past 37 plus years. That discussion is not there. What is there appears to be who should be driving the car. There are people outside the car who are saying the car ought to be driven by Mnangagwa instead of Mugabe. Imagine you were the wife of Mugabe and you hear all these things being said about the man you think is the only one, is the only elephant in the house. Now they're saying there is a little giant in the same house and your husband is quiet. People are talking. Dare remove him and you see what happens. And Mugabe is being provoked. Only yesterday, Mnangagwa was thinking that his position was safe. His chief had no issue with him except that there was a vacancy for women. That there was nothing wrong in having 3 vice presidents because none of them would be a successor in the eyes of President Mugabe. Now, Mr. Mugabe has thrown the gauntlet and says, actually, the position of Mnangagwa is a borrowed position. He stepped into the shoes of a woman and they want to reclaim that seat. This is not an academic argument, I would assume. But people are saying there is a problem in Zimbabwe. What is the nature of the problem? And this is the question that we are posing. And Savannah says that's not necessarily true. Problem-solving power is no relation to academics. I will explain. Okay. Please do explain. Welcome, Jackie Handley. Walter Madison, welcome. You are saying, tell them, boss. Problem in Zimbabwe is you have a 93-plus-year-old incumbent president. This man called Robert Mugabe has said and continues to say, I am not tired, so I won't retire. I am still up to the game. My mind is sound, but the problems are old. And I am here to fulfill the mandate given to me by my people. And I am in situ. I am the candidate in 2018 for ZANU-PF for the national elections. There is no opposition as it stands today to my continued presidency. And therefore, this whole idea of factions is actually a bad rumor, a bad omen. Because if it was good, anyone in the party would know better and act better and inform better. Mugabe has pronounced himself on this issue of succession, that there is no succession problem. Therefore, there is no solution called for. The vice presidents are appointed by Mugabe, so there is no constitutional issue raised or that conceivably can be raised in relation to who should be deputy or not. Because the power to appoint or to create that face of a vice president, that power is vested in the president. Nothing has changed. Nobody is calling for a constitutional amendment. We now hear that the position of vice president, according to the First Lady, that position ought to be reserved for women. So it will have to be a triumvirate comprising the president ZANU, one of the vice president coming from Matabeleland, and the third one being a woman. The youth have not asked for the presidium to be reserved. Otherwise, we'll have a fourth vice president representing the youth. So if you are a problem solver, this is the problem. Do you need academic qualifications to solve this problem? Or you just need to be street smart? Let's look at the problem-solving capabilities. The First Lady gets in to the pole position of the Women's League. Doesn't assert her right, doesn't assert the women's right to assume the position of vice president. They go to Congress, they pass, she's elected as the head of the Women's League. Then through the party structures, they push for the resolution to get this reservation reasserted. They don't raise the issue of Mnangagwa. They raise the issue of a reserved position for women. It's like a snowball. You know where it will end. It starts just by one act. And that act is a roadmap. That roadmap is on its way to the Congress. And at the Congress, whereas other people were speculating that women wanted to be part of the three, now, for the first time today, we now know from the First Lady that the game is up, the game is on, that there should be a vice president who is a woman, yes. But that vice president should substitute or displace the existing vice president. Oliver says, Nengea, it's a ZANU-PF problem, not a ZANU-PF. And only ZANU-PF can solve it. No academics needed. It's not even a ZANU-PF problem. There are people within ZANU-PF who didn't even know where this thing was going. But there are people in the party who knew exactly what they needed to do to get where they are today. These are human beings who conspire, who collaborate, and who negotiate, and who can call somebody even caught napping and say, you're not napping. Who can say, like Shaggy, it wasn't me. Even if you say there's Zimdev, they'll tell you there's not Zimdev here. The issue is what they've defined the issue to be. For the first time, President Mugabe is singing from the same hymn sheet. He has now understood what other people understood before without confiding in him. Now he's being told that you have a snake inside your own home. And this snake has been given an opportunity to actually come clean. Because if they are criticizing you as president, it means they are criticizing me. Then the argument has been elevated. If Mnangagwa's wife can step into his shoes as a member of parliament for the constituents that he was elected to represent, then what is the wrong with Mugabe's wife stepping into the shoes of her husband? What would be the counter argument? This is problem solving. Now, the issue will be presented to the president. So, are you the one who doesn't want your wife to be in that position when the people have spoken? Everywhere people are saying, Munwese kwa amai. Everyone on the side of the First Lady. So who is there to say there is no logic in the argument presented? Do you need to go to university to understand what has been taking place? To understand that this game is a game not of academics, but of people who can plan and execute. That way, as President Mugabe was being told, there is no succession issue. This is not successionist. Now he's being told clearly, if there was no succession, why is the Masvingo province, Midlands province, standing out as a sore throat? Why are they unwilling to play the game? Is it because they have another trajectory, another narrative that is not shared? Is it because they don't subscribe to the one power center, one center of power? That center of power puts Mugabe as the only elephant in the room. If he is, where is this idea that Mnangagwa can be even mentioned as a possible successor when there's no vacancy? And he knows it, and he ought to know it. The vacancy will only be created when Mugabe is out, either voted out by the people of Zimbabwe, and that is what we are talking. Savannah, you then say, education that is outdated and not relevant to the reality of the 21st century or reality of life. Today's education was designed let me just check. Today's education was designed at the onset of the first industrial revolution, when they needed workers on the assembly line, learn to read, count, and memorize, no critical thinking, no room for creativity or entrepreneurship. There's only one correct answer. It applies worldwide, not just Zimbabwe. This is a human problem. That's the dimension you are bringing. So the idea of critical thinking, the idea of problem solving, that idea alone can take us somewhere. There were people who thought by appointing Mnangagwa as vice president, Mugabe had already made the choice, or had shown his hand that he wanted Mnangagwa to succeed him. And they thought the problem has been solved. So they rested on their laurels, even celebrating, thinking they've arrived. Every time they were celebrating, the others were thinking, critical thinking. That yes, we're not involved in the appointment of Mnangagwa as vice president. But surely we can manipulate this narrative to suit the worldview that says there is need to have someone in ZANU-PF who is trigger ready to be the next president. And the day has arrived. And people who didn't understand the first lady, what she was saying, that we need to name the successor. Now it is so clear as day and night what she meant. And those who didn't listen to her will now understand where the gravitas is, where the gravity of power is. And Grace just said it today. Welcome to Ndaishoto. There is one center of power. Savannah, you're right. One center of power. And that center of power, is it President Mugabe or his wife? That is the debate that you can then exercise your mind. Because she has managed to solve a problem that President Mugabe has failed to solve so far. His vice presidents until now were never a heartbeat away from the presidency. But now even President Mugabe has accepted that age is not on his side. So, who will be acting president? Who should bury him if he dies in office, as happened to all the 4 vice presidents, with the exception of Mujuru? Who will be there? Now, they've said, let's settle this problem. We are problem solvers. And they didn't go to school to understand the problem. So among the problem solvers, you may find Kasukuere is there. You may find Professor Moyo is there. Shuawu is there. These are the people who are saying we are solving the problem. Other people don't see the problem. Savannah says, also realize I'm a free thinker and can solve problems on the go and can analyze situation unseen or heard. I also learn practically and cannot claim to save my life. You are not. There is I think this could be a master class. Job 28 verse 2, is it? Job 28 is verse 12. But where is wisdom and understanding to be found? Where is this wisdom? Where is the address? Because we have a lot of political analysts, philosophers, ideas men, who have failed to understand the potency and the power of being a first lady, where there's one power, where there's one center of power. Anyone who challenges that center must bear the consequences. So after this conversation, I put the question back to you. Do you think there's a positive relationship between academic qualifications and problem-solving power? Some may say, yes, the First Lady is now Dr. Amai. Is it because she's doctor? Or because she actually is an operator of note, who can see where the wind is blowing, who can see where the storm is going? When the storm is over, kumagumo, at the end, when the storm is over, what Mnanga was talking, who will be standing? That is the question. Does it require academics to answer that question? Welcome, Mambi. So what is your take? Do you think there's a positive relationship between academic qualifications and problem-solving power? Do you agree that there is a problem in Zimbabwe? And that problem actually says a lot. That there could be a point in history where you are at the crossroad. You can't go forward. You either turn left or turn right. If you turn left, it's Mnangagwa's way. If you turn right, it's some other people's way. So it's not right for righteousness or left for wickedness. These are the 2 points in ZANU-PF. Mugabe is still going, but he knows there will come a stage where there is a T-junction. That Mugabe stewardship, if we can call it, will come to an end. When that happens, who steps on the steering wheel? if you agree that question is there in ZANU-PF, then also think, what could these people who know that the T-junction is ahead, what could they be thinking now to solve this problem? That the Special Congress is a part of the supply chain, what we can call political value chain, leading towards that point. And a decision will have to be made, and indeed will be made. Now, the decision is being crystallized and refined to actually inform any doubters, any doubting Thomases, that this is what should happen. It depends if Mugabe is alive, Grace stands. If he dies, Grace Nyama Kanyama. Yeah, Tanga, as she has way too many enemies. She needs to be in power now before Happy dies. Else she's dead too. If you got a problem, and you know there's a snake that is likely to hit you before you hit it, would you need to be Dr. Amai to sleep and wake up and say, I'm safe? Especially if your adversaries are raising a much more refined argument that we are mosquito-bitten, we are battle-hardened, and our legitimacy flows from a war that you were never part of. If you were born, you were not mature enough to participate, and the fact is you never participated, and therefore you are ineligible, unqualified. Whether you take as many degrees as you can, simply you were not in the bush where the future of Zimbabwe is written or ought to be written. And if you know there is a problem, and your husband, by falling in love with you, he actually crossed the Rubicon and went the other side. This is the case. If you know that, and Savannah, you know that 1975, some people were not born to make any argument or to be on the argument where succession ought to be discussed according to the narrative that other people are presenting. Marshal Judao, welcome. So this is the question. So you need to think about it. And we were talking about Professor Mutambara, who is making an argument. And a persuasive one. He's not the only one. And most of the people who want to be president in Zimbabwe, there could be 70 of them. We had one tycoon or somewhere from South Africa who also wants to be a president. He thinks money can solve the problem. We have people who are educated, who think the problem actually is brewed in the pot of ignorance. That if they think better in their mind, therefore they ought to be in State House. A lot of permutations, a lot of people who are wasting their money thinking that the problem is somewhere where it is not. But people are looking for an address of problems. Some people think, no, this one ought to be a president because he has suffered for it. He has been waiting in the rain for too long. And when you say, what time is it? They will tell you it's Mr. X's time. This is the problem. Yet we don't even think about what this idea of presidency is and ought to be. So I've raised them still on number one, but there are many questions that are there that we need to have a conversation on. But there are some questions that are actually closer to this issue, but we go them. Are all presidents called president? Are all persons called presidents worthy of the title leader? Because we often assume that a president ought to be smart, ought to be a leader, ought to have followers, ought to have the power to solve the universal problem, the strategic problems, the tactical problems, the daily problems of life. This is what we think. Are we correct on that? Can we say president is equal to leader? If so, what are the implications? So think about it. If you wanted a leader, what kind of human being would that need to be? Somebody who leads you. Even we can see that president is not leading the first lady. She has a mind of her own. And that mind is ignited here to be part of the interface rallies, not as a junior. And she speaks before her husband. In between, there is no vice president. So where is the protocol? Who is a leader there? There are some with positions. They call you president, vice president. But on the ground, if you hear the head of the ZANU-PF Youth League, in the people he thanks, he will defer to Amai and say, thank you, Amai, for being this benevolent, smart, gifted leader. Yet the people Mugabe is appointed. Before the sun sets, people are already saying they are irrelevant in the value chain. So you have an official position here, and you have actually de facto position. And this de facto position, once it's recognized, it has consequences. And some people don't think there are consequences. They see the drama being played without critical thinking. They see the interface rallies. Remember, Ms. Mujuru did not make it to Congress because they had put a roadblock already before the Congress. For her not to arrive, for her to smell before she arrived, even if she were to go there, or Mutasa were to go there, he would have found that that was not the address to be. Because everything requires thinking before acting. The people who are thinking, they know. We hear that Vice President Mnangagwa got a bigger ovation in a room where the grandmaster and the wife are there. That ovation itself is fuel to accelerate the inevitable reconfiguration. So, are all persons called presidents to you worthy of the title leader, if we can agree that a leader exists? History, some people say it is a memory. Does history, do you think history has and ought to have a memory? There are people who say it's the drama repeating itself. And what is your take on history, on events that have come before us, that will repeat themselves? What is your take? Steve Ranko, welcome. Okay. Let's discuss tonight the president's utterances to fire Mugabe at Interface Rally today Is it a wise decision which will strengthen ZANU-PF, or it's abuse of power by the incumbent? Yes, I think we will touch on it on the night session, but I'm just I've posed some questions, Tendai, that are on the screen. You can look at them, because that question is then covered in some of the questions if you look at them carefully. And you may find that within those broader philosophical and general questions, we may be able to locate the human mind of Mugabe. Before we talk about the mind of a president, if that mind exists, Mugabe is surrounded, as you may know, by logic, by common sense, by reason, by ignorance as well. He is polluted in his worldview. There are people who are paid just to keep on confusing, conflating issues. And they'll always be there. So when you look at Mugabe looking at Mnangagwa today, and they greet each other before the speech, what do you think could be in Mugabe's mind? That is the mind we will discuss. The human mind. What do you think Mugabe will say after his wife has already put the stage, the frame of the perimeter of the arguments, the circumference of anger? What do you think he will say? This anger has been brewing in an African pot, slowly, measuredly, but going somewhere. And the First Lady may have known where this trajectory was going. They say a long march begins with one step. That step, if you look at the trajectory, that step has got a mind that informs its motion and direction of motion. So at Tendai, there is a lot to discuss. There is a lot to unpack. The question is, are we prepared to unlock our minds so that we can look at facts the way they should be looked at? Are we prepared to have these conversations? And if we are to have them, where do we go for wisdom? Where do we go for understanding? What address do we go to? We may find that over the last 37 plus years journey of independence, that the address is nowhere to be found. Now, Zimbabwe, 37 years later, it's a market infested with agendas, innuendo, superstition, speculation. But it's clear the objective facts will remain. History is what it is. Does it have a memory? Should it have a memory? Can history replicate itself? Or it's human beings who create a story through their activities? So what is it that we learn? For some who listened before in these same conversations, we are where we said we are going to be. There are consequences to each journey you take. It will take you to a destination. What is the destination? When people refer to a failed state, what in your words do you think this means? Is a nation capable of failure? That's a question. Is Zimbabwe a failed state? Can a nation fail? Or the individuals, can you and me? What do you think is and ought to be the seed for power, poverty, and prosperity. Mugabe says the seed are the people. The seed is the Congress when delegates come together and are vested with the power to decide, to vote as they will. The vote they will be given. Should there be a constitutional reservation of power in ZANU-PF for a woman, unanimously, they will all say yes. They leave it there. So it means by that decision, it's now left for someone's husband to decide. He may feel it's nepotism, but now the tables have turned. They'll say if it's nepotism for the president's wife, it also must be nepotism for the vice president's wife. And you see how far the argument will go and who will lose that argument. Then in Nigeria, which is what we're discussing in my WhatsApp group, for instance, is Nigeria capable of owning, let alone being credited with gifts of nature? We always say the country is endowed with mineral resources, with this or that. Do you think it was the intention of life to vest that right with a country? And the country itself does not have the powers that we all have of life, liberty, and the right to pursue happiness. Does an African exist as a person or a group? How many of us talk of ourselves as Zimbabweans, as Africans? Is there any animal called Zimbabwean? Can we group people up and say ZANU-PF is monolithic and ZANU-PF thinking is homogeneous? Or we always say within ZANU-PF there are characters, there are actors, and those actors don't always think the same way. They have no obligation to think the same way. They all don't have the same dreams. They may belong to the same party. That is just a mask. But behind the mask are individual crafters, craftsmen, and craftswomen who are daily thinking not about the nation, not about everyone else. They're just thinking about themselves. And we need to watch those people. It is those people who must worry you, because they have their own mindset. And they will exercise their own sovereignty over issues. So, if you are watching and you are silent, it means we are going somewhere. If you are silent because you are intimidated by the questions, please say so. If the questions have no value to your thinking, please be the voice of your own objection. So, there is shepherd. History repeats itself and there's nothing new under the sun. Unlock our minds. Who locked them in the beginning? We often are the authors of our mind problem. Because sometimes we refuse to think beyond the four corners of self. Do you think history is a mind? No. Dead people also had minds, but they are gone. What has happened today is gone. So history doesn't have memory, but you have memory. And it's just The memory is just there to tell what has taken place. It doesn't have any legs. The event of yesterday does not mutate into the reality of today. The reality of today is a consequence of actions of today. Does history possess the power of causation and agency? Again, an object will always remain where it is until an external force does the trick. So history will just sit there. Those facts will not change. But what changes are the human beings who create stories every day. And today, in hindsight, will be a historic day for people in ZANU-PF. Because for the first time, they know what they didn't know. They may not have been prepared for it. But now, there is a new reality that they have to think about. When Mnangagwa sleeps tonight, he has to have very big dreams. Because he now knows that the boss has been captured, if we can call capture. That the boss now knows what time it is and what game is in play. And he now knows what he is expected to do for him to remain where he is. Because the people are impatient. They want this issue to be resolved now. And they've spoken. If it's not eloquence, they have spoken. Those who didn't hear yesterday where the gravitas was moving, they now know that there is something in the works. Do you think history has and ought to have a memory? The answer is no. But if you think it has a memory, fine. Human beings have a memory. Does Africa need any leader? I don't think so. Africa is just geography. It's just the mountains. It's just the things that were given for free. We are just the active agents of gifts of nature. So we are the beneficiaries of gifts of nature with limited capacity to create reality. I cannot create the reality of minerals. I cannot create the reality of life. So life itself is created independent of the creativity and ingenuity of man. So what is Africa? What is Zimbabwe? Both cannot be self-standing constructs of the Creator. These are human creations. Do you need a leader as a person? That's the question for you. In your life, do you have experiences where your life has been qualified because this leader or this supposed superhuman has not been evident in your life? If not, then why Africa? Tendai Choto said there's a lot of dust in the air right now in Zimbabwe. Tendai, dust, what dust are you talking about? Is it a new dust? Or there's always been air in the air? Zimbabwe has human beings who are alive, who can listen, who can think. What do you think is this dust from? From the human mind. Can the human mind create dust and put it in the air? If so, how would we do it? Do you trust any man with a single mind pretending to know more than what is humanly possible? There are people who have credited Mugabe with these genius-like characteristics. And there are some people who blamed him. But do you really think that Mugabe in his head holds all the answers to the problems? That he even knows what the problem is? The people who have crafted the problem, I think, Tendai, you agree, they know exactly what the problem is. And they know that this problem requires solution now before Mugabe exits or meets his fate. So they are clear as to what the problem is. But it may be the case Mugabe does not know the problem that they have, because he doesn't have to suffer it. He doesn't have to deal with the consequences of doing nothing. But these guys know that if they don't make a move, the other side will soon make the move. And when that does happen, they have no defense. So preemptive action, preemptive strike is always the best defense. And they are just doing what they have to do to secure the future they want. If they don't make a move, it doesn't mean the universe is the same. They are all members of ZANU-PF, all purporting to have allegiance to one set of power, but they are like eagles looking at each other and say, shit, if it goes left, I'm out. If it goes right, I'm in. So I have to take care of myself. So these are human beings. Mugabe may have his own ideas, but those ideas must be juxtaposed with the reality of what this conundrum offers. Okay. Do you think, Lord Mo Karanda said, I can see Ebo Muzorewa in you. Yes, Ebo Muzorewa is dead. Maybe you are saying I'm dead. Lord Mo. That's a Lord with Mo Karanda. I can see, I don't know what Muzorewa is, how you compare one individual with the other. That's what we are saying. Each of us is complete. I am complete. What I'm saying has nothing to do with Muzorewa. Muzorewa lived his life. May his soul rest in peace. But Lord Mo, stop comparing people. We are not angels. We are not apples. Even apples, they don't look the same. Oranges, they don't look the same. Human beings are unique, and you are unique. Speak your mind. Don't be an expert on Ebo Muzorewa or Mugabe. Spend your time focusing on you. You may not know who you are. So I don't believe that it is important for us to caricature others as proxies of others. We have Steve Rongo says problem solved does not require an academic qualification. Problem solving can be an individual act of power lifting. I am not an academic. I do not need necessarily an academic for a positive feeling. That's right. If you step on my toe, and I don't need an academic response. I need my response. Because it is me who feels the pain, no one else. So we are still going with our questions. I hope, Lord Mo, I've answered you. And then is it reasonable and realistic to expect a president to be a problem solver or a trustee? There are many of us who actually think a president ought to be a problem solver. Is that your position as well? Whoever is watching or listening. What do you think? Would you want to elect someone to solve your problems? And if so, how would they know your problem in the first place? So apply your mind and and tell us your contribution. And so this is the human mind. It requires unlocking. And it's only you who can unlock it if you decide to invest in the idea of unlocking. So, do we have any more lingering questions? Any? Tendai, are you still there? Lord Mo, are you there? Tendai Zinyama, Tendai Choto, are you still there? It appears I'm now talking to myself. So, yeah, Tendai Choto, I can see proof of life. So I'm going to, any questions on the questions raised, any area that is not clear, that requires amplification, we'll talk about tonight at 9 p.m. We'll go into the President and First Lady so that we can hear them in their own words. What are they saying? Are they saying the same thing? Or we can now conclude that the First Lady is her own person. The President is his own person. And the two are negotiating. And they're still not there yet. But each one is pulling his or her own wagon. So if you have any questions about the ground covered, the questions raised, they are on my Facebook page. You can go to them, add your comments, add your insight. Let's create a battle of ideas. Let's have ideas rebel. But let's understand what the problem is. If we understand the problem correctly and define it correctly, then we can work towards solving it. And we can take a leaf from the First Lady that she understood the problem. One day the problem was Mamjuru, and she was knocked out of the bus. Today, there were two factions, we were told. The first one to go is outside the bus. The second one in the bus maybe never understood why he was given the front seat, only to discover now that actually it was a poison chalice that take the seat and we are on your case. You are not our candidate because the seat that you are occupying is a seat that is too close to the solution. So, the only way we can manage this transition is by knocking you out. And it was inevitable. And this successionist debate started immediately after the Congress. So the people already knew what was at stake and what time was it. It was time for number 2 post. That is where they presume the succession is. Mamjuri is no longer there. The next one to go is Mnangagwa. Was it inevitable? Was it predictable? Did he know? If he knew, he could have defended Mamijuru to say, President, I can see a great danger. You are removing somebody who doesn't have a career other than through you. You are removing someone on the basis of allegations that are untested, will never be tested, will never be capable of having life. But if Vice President Mnangagwa benefited from this trajectory, then we have a problem. So Tendai Choto, yeah, let's talk more tonight. Just trying to digest today's happenings. Yeah, the happenings may have been predictable. So if you have any question, I got 10 minutes left. So please shoot your questions. Any life out there? Are you alive there? There seems to be no proof of life. Muzeza gift. Welcome. Any other question? Okay. So on that note, I think we have covered ground and hope to engage later on tonight at 9 p.m. Central African time, which is Pretoria time. And Zimbabwe beyond the headlines, that's what Tendai Choto, you want that series to be Zimbabwe beyond the headlines. Is it a suggestion or a question mark? Or sharing ideas that matter? Because we may find that the issues are the same in Kenya, in Zambia, South Africa, that the issue of power illiteracy, the imbalances of power, the negotiation, the blueprint of life, the intended experience of life, that this must go beyond Zimbabwe. Ideas have no borders. I hope Tendai you would agree. Let's integrate Mugabe just as one example. That even in South Africa, Namibia, people are thinking, who will be next? What if this happens? What in Angola, wherever, in Nigeria, in Ghana, whatever you say, wherever there are human beings, the issue of power, it comes to the fore. But our understanding of power is not shared. So can we create a public square, an arena where we can share your perspectives? Please give us your perspectives from your own prism. Where is this air? Where is this dust? What happened today that is worth noting? Is it something that is unusual? Is it something that was predictable? Is it something that was inevitable? Or you are just seeing the tail end of a well-executed plan? If so, who are the architects of this plan? And who have they been negotiating? And what do we learn about negotiating? somebody just at a rally today has lost a job by announcement. And he woke up this morning not knowing what was going to happen. And some people already knew what was going to happen. Already knew what the text was. So that is the kind of negotiation that we want to have. So I think I'll just share as I close something that was shared this morning for you just to hear the.
Munitumiriro audio yangu isvike kwavari. Ndanyatso kubvunza a very logical question. Tisingarwe, tisingapokani, tisingaitirani hasha. Is it even possible here kuti sure nyika ine vanhu more than 14 million? Munotaura kuti kwaiva Mugabe chete. Muchitaura munhu ane 94 years. Muchitaura munhu asingachigoni kana kuzvifambira oga nemakumbo ake asina kusapotiwa. Sure zvinoreva kuti imwimwi varume vakuru vana Philipi Chiyangwa vana Zhao makakwana here imwimwi kana muchitoti kwai moda kuti Mugabe ave ndende, moda kuti Mugabe akuwinirei election munokuriga kuti mugozosara imwimwi muchiramba muchiendera mberi muchiba. Why musina nyasha? Why musina tsitsi nenyika yeZimbabwe? Iko zvino kana nyangwe kana ivavo vanhu vanofamba vachinzi kwanzi toda kukupa imota machief wawo. Shuwa machiefs nyarai vanhu. Makapiwa mandate yokutungamira vanhu kumaruzevha. Hamuna kupiwa mandate yokusafisa vanhu. Nguva yehondo ini ndaive chimbwido ini ndakarepewa nemakomrade. Chandakareperwa chii? Nokuti Zimbabwe yacho takangotangisa kusafa kubva musi wokutanga, kubva musi tichitangisa kunzi tibikire makomrade acho. Makomrade acho iwe ndiyo avo vana Mugabe. Vaiva vasipo futi kana kufofrand. Vanga vari kuzvikoro kana kuti kupi. Iko zvino vakuuya ndiye akuda kuramba achikotonga ari ega. Saka hondo yacho ndiye akaenda ari oga. So what is the point even of going to an election? Who in their rightful mind would want a 94-year-old to be their leader? Vana vediko zvino havasi kuenda kuzvikoro, havasi kukwanisa kuti vawane mabasa even vakaenda kuzvikoro. We put a maximum effort. Chwa imwe vanhu imwe especially munotengesa imwe muvanhu imwe kwanai nokuti musazvada musana muchiti Mugabe vari kutigonera nokuti indigenization yematuzvi nyangwe mukaita mari dzenyu idzodzo muchangopera nokudzibirwa kudzimba nokuti mukadziendesa kubhengi hadzibudi. Grace anenge achidziteerera achinodzichinja achidzita mabond coin. Imwimwi muchingori busy muchiti yewe vamugabe vechii? Saka nyika ino yamonaki here. Even kana iyo iri monaki, I've never seen any stupid people who are not defend a stupid cause to such an extent. Consequently, you are an educated nation. Educated my foot. Hamuna kana education aminayo. Makangoverengese wachete mabhuku but hamutorina kana logic chai hamuna maZimbabwe kana muchiramba muchiti kwaiva Mugabe chete vamugabe chete. I'm tired. I'm not advocating for Utichi, but surely even Muzan PF Machomomo, you can get someone else as Mugabe. I'm sick and tired.
Okay, on that note, goodbye until later on. Thank you.